Here we have the dirty ant, a size 18 parachute ant. When terrestrials are on the menu, this bad boy is sure to produce. So grab a cup of chill as we sit back and go on the vise with the FlyOlderGuy. So on the vise, we have a size 18 dry fly hook in standard size. And I'm loading the bobbin with a 14-aught Vivus. I like a thinner thread here. It's a smaller fly, so something a little bit finer. I'm going to lock that thread in right in the center and just trim off the tag end. My tags are way too long sometimes. And then build up a little bit of a thread base, but just in the center. We don't want to go crazy right now because we're going to keep it a little bit light. And I'm going to grab some of this floating yarn. This is some Doug Swisher floating yarn. I think it says 50 cents on there or 25. You're not going to find that. Don't worry about it. So get some floating yarn and just trim off one section and then split it in half. This one, I believe, falls apart into thirds almost on its own, which is more than enough. Here, you're not going to need a lot here. You just want to lock it in place. And you can see it's plenty long. So one or two loose wraps, get it situated on the top. Sometimes it still spins around. There, it looks good. I leave a nice amount of space. It doesn't have to be dead center. You could be a little bit forward of center. It's not the end of the world. And you know me, I like to really secure my material, so I give it a couple of wraps in the front. Pull it back, a couple more wraps in the front. I'm going to leave it there. And then tie in the front section of this. We twist our yarn, and you can see that it kind of twists over itself, and then gives me a nice little tag end hanging out to tie down. So I tie that down, front and back, and then get to trimming off this loose part of the yarn in the front. Try to get as much as you can so you don't crowd this hook eye. I tend to do that sometimes, but then you can come back with the thread, and I believe we do, and really clean that up. And speaking of cleaning things up, going a little overboard for the camera, I would normally leave those loose threads and whatever pieces alone until later on. So we get a nice little thread base going here, working it really as far back as you can, right up to the bend I like to be when I'm going to get that nice and covered. Cover up the front. See, here's where I was saying I just kind of pull back that loose fuzz just to get it out of the way of the eye of the hook. And then I'm going to start a little bit of a base for the parachute. Just a few turns just to make sure I have it standing up straight and it's got a little base to it. So when we tie the feather in later, it'll be ready. It has something to work with. I don't want to go too high just yet. So back down to the base and then work my way back. Oh, a little more cleaning. Like I said, I would just leave that. So we work our way back to just about the bend. Right, I like to be close to the bend. You can see where that thread is hanging. And we're going to take 2 dubbing. Now here I have, again, these are older materials. This is like my magic box. I've got a beaver poly, like a dub in black. And this is like a Kaufman March Brown. So I'm mixing the 2 of them to give it like a dirty look. This is where the phrase dirty comes from. So we're going to spin some of that dubbing on there. You want to keep that noodle tight as you can. And I think I might even hit the hook here. I don't know. Don't hit the hook. If you do, just rewrap. It's not the end of the world. So, but you want to, like I said, you want to build up a nice fat body on this thing. Look at that. See? That looks good. That's a nice fat body. You can even go a little fatter if you wanted to. just kind of whatever mood I'm in. So now we're going to tie in our Hackle. This is a nice size 18 Grizzly Hackle. I'm going to tie it in right up on that front side. Pull it back a little bit. You can see I 2 wraps loose, situate it, and then pull back so that you're not crowding that eye. Wrap it in tight, and then we're going to start to wrap it up onto this parachute post. We got that started a little bit so it has a nice base to work with. So get quite a few wraps. I like to wrap it up tall because I'm going to spin this probably 4 times around. So I want to give the Hackle room to kind of come back down. And we will start to come back down with the thread now, working our way down. I like a nice firm post on this parachute. Wrap it back, bring the thread to the front. Again, a little housekeeping. So I'm going to grab a little bit of dubbing, dub that on there. And like I said, I like to have these sections almost plump. You know, it doesn't matter if it's like a little bigger than you think it should be. Don't crowd the eye. If anything, crowd the post. So I'm putting on a nice amount. You can see how plump that head looks right up there against the post. And that's one of the keys to this fly, I think, is that nice plump head. I think a trout must think it just looks delicious. So here we go. We're going to just wrap this Hackle downward. Like I said, it's a few turns. I think I go, usually for me with this, it's about 4 turns. If I have the room, I'll go 5. But I like to at least go 4 turns. And then I come up on top of the feather and then, carefully wrap underneath that feather. Now I'm going to pull it down and just trim off the end of this Hackle feather. Grab the whip finish tool, and we're doing like this horizontal whip finish. So it's a little tricky, but once you try it, you'll get it. Don't worry much about spinning it around. Once you figure it out, you'll be able to do it with ease. It takes a couple to get it down. So about 5 turns there, and I sneak it right underneath, right next to the post. Trim off the thread, and then we're just going to trim the top of the parachute to open it up because it was curled over on itself. And that's about it. All you have to do now is a little more housekeeping. I got a couple feathers there. Kind of just trim those out. It looks pretty clean, actually. Like I said, that plump head is just almost irresistible, I think, to the trout when they see that. So it's looking pretty nice. The profile looks good. We want to secure those threads that are right at the base where we whip finished on the post. So we're going to apply a little bit of head cement. I have some clear head cement here, and I take my bodkin, and I really just put just a tiny, tiny bit there on the tip, and just try to touch it a little bit to those thread wraps. If you see an extra piece of like a little tiny drip sticking on your Hackle, don't be afraid to just brush it off, flick it off, it should be fine. And then you want to leave it kind of locked in that position for a couple minutes to let that head cement dry and cure, and then you're done. That's about it for the dirty ant. There's always more than a few of these in my box. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the tie, and we'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay fly.